do have to remove the slide now, Louise.
No. Hang on.
Oh, she's panicking. She's panicking.
panicking.
There she is. There, you've done it. Well done.
You just do it to make me look silly.
Good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody today? Yes, we are early. The reason being that we've been round here since, what time was it, Louise? What time did we come round here?
It's been like a normal working day.
We've been around here since about 10 o'clock.
No customers.
It's been good, isn't it? Everybody, can you hear us both? We would love you to let us know, can you hear us? Let's have a wait. We got lots of questions coming through. Yes, we are here already. We've been really early today, which is not like us. Normally we're rushing and we're sliding out at the last minute and having to rush and put everything together. But yeah, we are here today. Okay, how's everybody been? I hope you've all been well. Do you have any ideas for different kinds of bales? We will come to all your lovely questions a little bit later, but first of all, we just really want to have a chat with you for the next few minutes. We're going to try and, itchy eye, just need to try and plan and make sure this starts around about 4 o'clock. Yeah, silver's high today. It's an interesting thing, this, isn't it? Because they had on Reddit, it was that game store, wasn't it, Louise? Remember we saw that a little bit? We haven't heard much of it in this country, but there was this game store that was going down the pan. Yeah. Okay, over the last couple of days, right, on the news, yeah, on the news, we don't often watch the news. On the news, this game store was going down the pan, yeah, the shares in it were absolutely awful, yeah, because it was on its way out, losing money, but people on Reddit came along and started to speculate and started to buy shares, and it's bumped the price up 1,600%. And now they are not at an all-time high, but they're really high now. So what they've started to do now with silver is do exactly the same thing. Speculate on silver now, and so they're pushing the price of silver up. And silver today is the highest price it's been, I think, in 8 years.
Wow.
So there we go. Just thought I'd let you know on that. Interesting. So, yep, gone up to 29 this afternoon. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous what the internet can do, and it sounds like an old man, you know, what the internet can do, what the interweb, but yeah, what you can do purely, but on a news group, just to put prices up. It's ridiculous, which is a bit unfortunate because it means for you and for me, it's the worst thing that could be possibly happening, because if we have to buy stock, if we have to buy materials now, we got to pay the highest price it's been for 8 years, but literally within a few days, a few weeks time, it's going to come back down again. So it's interesting, but it's not good. Right, okay, well done, Louise. Right, okay.
I don't know, I'm just a bit late to the party with this one. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it was hedge funds that was crashing the stock to make profits. People stopped that, yes. Wall Street rules. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. All right, so what we're going to say. So, Louise, how is your course going this weekend? Not this weekend, this week.
This week?
This week?
Had my first assessment, did it okay, rather well.
Good.
So that's good. So yeah, I've got a week now before the next block starts, which I'm going to use for revision.
Okay.
Yeah, because I had 2 weeks to do the assessment and I'd done it in a week.
Excellent.
Which, not meaning to brag, but yeah, but I'm going to use the next week now to revise and make sure I'm
clued up on it.
Yes.
And what's the next assessment all about? You don't know.
It's locked. It's I can't go on to any of the new material now until.
All right. Okay. Yeah. That's cool. I like that.
Which is good because you can't kind of
go ahead and
race on ahead and for the sake of just finishing.
So they release it at a specific time.
It's there, but you can't access it.
Right.
Yeah, just yet.
Very good.
Which is good. Yeah.
Very good. Anything else happening with you?
We've had the competition, haven't we? Which has been amazing.
The competition, oh my gosh, yes. You remember last week we said we were running a photo competition. Post a photograph every day for a week using the topic that we mentioned. And it was literally, we had hundreds upon hundreds of entries, haven't we?
It's been fab. It's been so great looking at all the photos and getting to know you all a little bit better. It's been really, really good, isn't it?
And people's interpretation as well.
Yeah.
Of, I can't remember which one it was, but it was what makes it all worthwhile, was it? Something like that. And it's you think it's just going to be in one particular sort of like topic, but I was going through some of the pictures, and one minute you're laughing, and next minute then you're nearly crying, and then you got a big smile on your face because everyone's interpretation was different, and you actually felt for the people then. Yeah.
I love the happy dance. What was it? What was
I've
the song?
got an order from a stranger.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can find that and post it up because that's really
that
good.
That made me laugh.
Yeah,
I watched it and I was like, what is
that?
And then I watched it about half a dozen times and laughed more and more every time I watched it. It was brilliant.
Saturday. That was on Saturday. It was Saturday.
Yeah.
So if you can find that, post up a link in the chat, and that would be really good.
And I think we can all relate to that because we still get a bit excited, don't we? If we get an order from far and wide, we kind of go, ooh, Durham, ooh, Glasgow.
So it's not like literally a mile up the road, it's actually like Halifax.
Yeah.
The first thing we do, we get an order. Where are they from? Oh, it's local. Where are they from? Oh, it's just around the corner. Where are they from? Oh, Scotland. Oh, yeah. So we can totally relate to that. We can totally relate to that.
I think most people can, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, when you get 2 minutes, find that for us, pop it in the chat, that'd be really good, because that'll bring a laugh on people's faces.
It was good.
That was really good. But I think, I can't remember who it was now, the lady said the fact that we have to do it now. We have to do it on camera.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
She said, yeah, I think we liked it, and she said, well, now you've liked it, now you've got to do it.
Yeah, because I commented, I said it made my day seeing that, yeah.
But yeah, it's good, it's good. Kerry's on from Gemology Rocks.
Hi, Kerry.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I love the gin and gemstones Friday night. The great gemstones. That was fab, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always good.
This? I think I did see earlier on. Are you going to be chatting about Tucson, the shows? Because we're all missing the shows, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. And last year we didn't go to any trade shows. The year before I promised you, Louise, we're going to go to New York, we're going to MJSA, we're going to go to Las Vegas, we're going to go to the JCK show and that. And what happened? We didn't go anywhere.
Didn't go anywhere.
Didn't go anywhere at all. So
please, Kerry, tell us what this Friday is going to be the topic.
And also pop a link into the chat as well for us. We'll let that go through. Tucson special this week. Good.
If anybody doesn't know, 6 p.m. Friday, Kerry does a fabulous chat every Friday. It's called Gin and Gemstones, and it's a gemology based talk, really.
You got to bring your own gin.
Really, you have to provide your own gin, but that's fine. And it's fab.
Absolutely. But pop along. Kerry, put a link in there. That's cool, and we shall see you there. And just pop along. And if you pop along, just say that we suggested and recommended. Be cool. Okay, so 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, yeah.
Shall we start? It is the first. Some a few more things. Yeah. Okay, it is the 1st of February, and it's time for our question and answer.
I believe it's
February already. Crazy. Another month into the year, we haven't even opened the shop again, have we, since the middle of December?
Well, that's what I've been doing today. I've been trying to get everything in order because it was like it had been ransacked by us, not by anyone else. But the last week before Christmas was just bonkers, wasn't it? And everything just went everywhere. So I've just been taking down the Christmas decorations finally, which is shameful, isn't it? Isn't that really bad?
It is bad, yeah.
It was a bit like the end of the world there.
It's going to be done.
Depressing, yeah.
And then, so...
So that's finally done and it feels good.
It's good, isn't it? So I got to start again now. It's the 1st of February.
So, I won't do it again.
It's the 1st of February. Welcome to the question and answer of 2021. Louise, may we have our first question, please?
Yes. Oh, I missed one here. I think there was one here earlier and it's gone. So I'm sorry if somebody... Okay. First question. Sorry, I should have had
Everyone's been talking about the weather.
Okay. Paul is asking, does the Sievert Pro 886 jewellery kit put out more heat than the larger of the 2 bench torches you have? Have have a cold shed problem and think I need more heat. Torch not left in cold before use.
Okay, can you just quickly get that up on the screen? I'm not quite sure if it is the
sievert.
Yeah, the Sievert Pro 86. Is it the one with a pencil nozzle? Let me just have a quick look, because if it is, I'd say no. It is, okay, so it's the pencil nozzle one. It's better than this guy, okay? This little guy. It is not as powerful as this guy, okay? So it sort of sits in between. It's using propane, so the temperature of the flame is going to be a little bit more than the butane that's in these. If you want to get something more powerful than this, stick with your sievert, but get a separate neck and a separate burner that goes onto that. Then you can do a lot more annealing and melting down. The advantage of what you've got is the fact that it's a big tank and it's not going to run out like this and the pressure isn't going to drop. But this is if he gets it right, there we go. No, this is actually a pretty good flame. So you can get the Sievert 86. Absolutely, get it from Hamilton Gas. Hamilton Gas in Ireland should have it. They are the cheapest. If you haven't bought it already, don't buy it from Cookson's, don't buy it from anywhere else. Go to Hamilton Gas. I should keep a list of all these things, shouldn't we? Because we say this virtually every other week. And go to them. It's free postage and they are the cheapest. But whilst you're there, get a neck. There's like a little angled neck that does that. Oh, not quite. It does more of that. It's a bit of an angled neck and it has a nut here and it has a nut there. And then you get another burner that screws onto that and that has little holes by there. 394, I'm not quite sure. Is it 3941? That springs to mind. That's a burner. And this then would screw onto your handle by here. This would be your nozzle. And that then you take off the pencil nozzle, put on that and that. And I think it's 3941 if I can remember right. But anything like that is going to be ideal for your needs. And you can keep that in the shed, that's fine. And propane burns at a higher temperature than the butane than these do. Hope that helps. Maybe have a next question.
Okay. Author is asking, is a stone securely set when it keeps spinning while polishing? I have it sometimes with bezel settings and now my first claw setting.
Ideally, it shouldn't spin, ideally. If it does spin, it's going to be loose, obviously. And what you may find is that it will rattle. And some people, because you've had a ring with a stone that rattles, it's quite annoying, isn't it? It's just that little bit of a loose stone. So I would always try and just push those claws down just that little bit more, just to stop it rattling. Because if it starts to rattle, it's going to start to mark the stone. And if it starts to spin, it's going to abrade the facets that go round as well on the gemstone. So always try and make sure the stone does not move. Take a good look with magnification, like your headband, or get a jeweler's loop and find out which claw is going to be loose, which claw isn't quite touching the stone, because really those claws have to be touching the stone, and just gently squeeze that claw down. But no, it shouldn't spin, it should be nice and tight. Louise?
Yeah.
Maybe have a next question, please.
Okay. Yes. Julia is saying, as silver is so expensive, I'm practicing with copper, but having repeated problems with solder not running. Copper is pickled, fluxed and glowing hot and sat on charcoal. What's going wrong?
Without actually seeing the setup and seeing the problems and seeing how the solder is moving and perhaps melting, it's going to be really hard for me to tell you exactly what's going on. It's like everything else. If you go through all the stages of making sure that the joint is nice and tight, or there's two surfaces touching, there's hardly any daylight, there should be virtually no daylight going through it at all. Make sure that the flux goes on the surfaces that need to be soldered. Not much point having a ring where the shank comes together like this and you put flux on the outside, hoping that the flux is going to flow through, because if the flux doesn't flow through the joint, the solder won't flow through the joint. Try saying that fast. Because the flux acts as a barrier and keeps the surface nice and clean. So the surfaces are going to be touching, the surfaces are going to be clean, no fingerprints, a bit of emery paper on the surface, or put it in pickle so it comes out and it's all nice and clean. Put some flux, make sure your flux is nice and clean and it's not too gummy and not too dirty. Make sure that goes on the surface. Yes.
It just stays in pallions. Sorry, I've just noticed it was a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it stays in pallions, it means it's not getting hot enough. Depending on what you've got, what you're soldering, depending on what you're soldering on as well. There was somebody who sent me a picture a couple of weeks ago saying that they had problems melting down in the crucible. They were using some gas and they were taking nearly over half an hour and the metal was not completely molten. The reason was he had a house brick behind. Now, any sort of house brick or anything like a kiln brick is going to suck the heat away. It's going to draw the heat away. And what you want is to have the heat being reflected back onto what you have got. This is why we've always got these soldering blocks and these little soldering boards, because they reflect the heat. So it's not taking the heat away, which will help. It sounds like it's just not getting hot enough. Are you using a big enough torch? Is your piece too big for the torch, perhaps? Perhaps the piece is zapping away the heat. Perhaps you're doing, nothing on my bench here to show you, but you're doing like a large bangle and you're heating the one side and the metal is zapping away and sucking the heat away from the joint. There's lots of reasons. Perhaps you should put some flux upon the pallions, but it does sound obviously like the metal is not getting hot enough, or the metal is not in contact with the pallions and the pallions. If the metal is red hot, the solder should melt if the solder is in contact with the metal. So without you showing me exactly what's going on, it's hard for me to tell you exactly what your problem is. But close fitting joints, clean, emery paper it or put it in the acid, plenty of flux, little pallions, make sure the pallions are nice and clean, add a bit of flux to the pallions, reflective blocks, big enough torch, and in theory it should flow. But if you want to send me a picture of your setup, not just how the piece is, but what you're soldering on, the torch and so forth, I'll certainly help you by all means. Next question, please, Louise.
Okay, Kenneth has been having problems with rolling down square wire to D shape. I have tried annealing it several times, but it always seems to twist after I have rolled a length.
It's quite interesting. Kenneth's doing the antlering that we did on at the bench. Now, if we do the...
I haven't got it on today.
Okay. I don't know. I don't understand why, if you put it through the square section, I don't understand why the metal would twist unless the rolls aren't completely aligned. You know, you've got the rolls like this and you've got them, those your V grooves, yeah? If perhaps they're slightly misaligned, perhaps one is further over than the other, perhaps it's putting a bit of pressure on one side and not the other, and because of that it's twisting, maybe. I know sometimes when we use the extension rolls and we use the mill downstairs, which is 35 years old, we've got extension rolls. Okay, so these are the extension rolls, and we've got D shapes. Awful drawing, Andrew. And that goes on the plain rolls. Okay, so these are the D shapes. Sometimes what you find, if the bearings are wearing on our rolling mill downstairs, but they're wearing evenly, so that's fine. But when it comes to using, this is the frame to the rolling mill, and those are the rolls there. So these are the extension rollers here. Sometimes they are not parallel, and sometimes this little bearing will move up slightly, so the bottom is not quite parallel here. And sometimes, yeah, if we do put a square wire through here, and because it's squashing it more on this side than that side, yes, sometimes it does twist. But if you put it in this direction, yeah, and then when you take it out, you actually do turn it around and put it back in the other direction, it should stretch it evenly so then it doesn't twist. But it sounds like there's something wrong with your rolling mill if the metal is twisting, because it should go through and come out completely square. I don't understand why. Just get it looked at, perhaps make sure that the rolls are nice and parallel, and you can do that with like feeler gauges that you used to use on the old spark plugs many years ago. Tighten the rolling mill down and make sure that you get an even amount of daylight through, and just check it that way. Maybe one needs to be altered, perhaps. Sounds like it, but again, apart from actually seeing what your setup is, really hard for me to say. May we have another question, please, Louise? Okay.
Stoyle is asking, after lost wax casting, how long should I leave the flask, 72ml by 100ml, before quenching? Tried 5, 6 and 7 minutes, but the casting is dark.
The casting will always be dark. What we do is that once we've cast it, we put it to one side. Once the button has no glow about it, we then usually do quench it. And it doesn't matter whether you quench it then or leave it 10 minutes, 20 minutes and quench it, it will always be black. If it's silver, it'll always be black, if that's some of the oxide that is on it. It's always better to put the flask in within a minute or so of it being cast, because the thermal shock will erupt the plaster, and it will get a lot more of the plaster off the casting than if you left it 10 minutes, 20 minutes, because the plaster will go bleh. Whereas, well, what are you laughing at? Well, it will. Whereas if you put the flask, wait for this, if you put the flask in the water a minute or so after, it's going to go, it's going that's the best bit, if you ask me, is but wear protection, wear masks, because you've got the silica coming from the investment going into the atmosphere and you don't really want to breathe that in. So quench it. It'll always be black. But what you need to do then is, once you've got rid of all the investment, is put it in some acid. And the acid, whether it be like a pickle pot, like this, got a brand new pickle pot, look at this, ooh, brand new one today. A pickle pot, you want to do that, and that then will get rid of all the oxides that are actually on the casting. But it'll always be black. Even gold, it will never be exactly as you expect it. So we've always put it in acid, whether it be warm acid or whether it be cold acid. We leave it there and it'll soon brighten up. So don't have to worry, it's nothing that you're doing, but try and quench it within a minute or so of you casting it, and it'll get rid of more of the investment, so you don't have to go poking around or with a wire brush or jet it or steam it or ultrasonic it. Should get the majority of it out. Louise,
yeah.
Maybe have another question, please.
Okay. Let's see. Kristen is asking, do you have any ideas for different kinds of bales for pendants?
You can make, now the best thing to do is really just look on a tool catalogue and just to have a look. Now, are you making your own bales? Because for me, the simplest way of making a bale is get a rectangular piece of metal, okay? Just like that, all right? Then what you want to do is just draw that shape on it like that, okay? Almost petal-like. And then hold it by here, and then all you got to do then is just bend it over, and you then have got your bale. How can I draw this? There we go, like that. Yep. And then you just push the ends together and you've got a bale. that is going to be basically the easiest way of making a bale, if you ask me. And you don't even have to saw it. If you've got a nice pair of shears, you can go shears that side, bend it over. You can make a bale in less than a minute. Okay, so that would be a very basic, simple bale. You can do things to this now. If you had a thick enough piece of metal, you can then, you've got your bale shape. Okay, what you can do now is get a saw blade and just put a groove down the center, a straight groove, not a wonky groove, and then get a triangular needle file and just cut a little bit of a groove in it like that, and then you can round the outside, you can round the outside of there, so then you've made a little bit of a bale that runs like that. Okay, so it's slightly rounded. You can make double, so it does that. So you get like a double groove down the bale. Yep, does that make sense? You can file it that way. Then you can, you've got your bale. You can actually put your half round file in here and then file it all the way down the channel as well. So so it looks something like that. And because of the end, and it's a side view now, because the end comes together in a little point, you can easily attach that into there we go, there's your pendant. You can easily attach that then through your jump ring quite easily and solder it. You can solder little balls on the front of here for embellishments, but I think, or you could even make a rabbit's ear by just cutting out the middle section, so you've got that. You know, so there's lots of different ways of making a bale like that, and then your chain would run through here. You see the chain running through and so forth. So there's lots of things that you can do, but making a bale out of a rectangular piece of metal, oh, it's so easy, so easy. And to be honest, it's better than actually buying them ready-made, because they do cost quite a bit, because usually they're cast. But you can make that up, you know, 1/2 mil thick, 3/4 of a millimeter. That's all you need to do. Cut that shape, then just get a pair of round pliers and just bend it round. It's simple. Next question then, please, Louise.
Okay, Gordo has got a question regarding ring sizing. Is there a chart or formula to calculate the length of metal to cut out to make a ring one size smaller?
Okay, if you're in the UK, one size is 1.75 millimeter. If you're in the US, it's double that, so it's 3.5 mil. That's as simple as that. You can buy, I know definitely in the US, you can buy like some gauges that all like fan out, and there's like a piece of metal that comes in like that, and then there's another piece of metal that comes in, does that, they're slightly wider like that, and these then equate to one size, you know, two sizes, and you just, they're like a pair of dividers. And then you get the edge of the metal and you just scrape it over the edge of the metal, and those are the sizes that you need. But once you start to do this, there's no need for these gauges, because you can gauge it by eye, to be honest. So in the UK, 1.75 millimeter. In the US, I think it is 3.5 mil. Use the dividers, do it by eye. Once you've started to do it, it's easy, and you should be able to get the right measurements every single time, rather than having to buy something like that. Louise, next question.
Okay.
Sweetie?
Oh, I thought you were being nice to me there.
Have some sweets.
Thank you, darling. Anko had a great time with the At the Bench competition. Had to explain to some people what an At the Bench membership is. Oh, so it's like OnlyFans for jewelers. Okay, are safety pickle fumes toxic? Safety pickle fumes toxic?
It shouldn't be, because the solution, well, the solution of safety pickle, the chemical is sodium bisulfate, which they use in swimming pools. So I would have thought that if it's safe for swimming pools, I'm not saying to drink it or anything like that, but I'm just saying, Obviously, you don't want to stand over your pickle pot when you're quenching something because of the smell and the fumes will come up, and it isn't going to be good to breathe it in or to sniff it in. But if you're here like this and you get your piece of metal and go like that, and a bit of spray comes up, it'll soon drop because it's obviously a lot heavier than air. Don't breathe it in, but don't quote me on it, but it's sodium bisulfate, which they use on swimming pools, chlorinated swimming pools. Yeah. I think it is. So it shouldn't be as dangerous as sulfuric acid, but as ever, double check before you start sniffing your safety pickle.
Or don't sniff your
or don't say you don't. No, don't even start. You know what I mean. I shall shut up, Louise. Next question, please.
Okay, Susanna, please help me figure out how to hold my bracelet, mandrel, tang, and ring mandrels. Holding by hand doesn't feel comfortable.
Cool. Okay, someone just mentioned, Stacey Clark says, isn't a safety pickle citric acid? No, not necessarily. Citric acid is a safe acid if citric acid is naturally occurring. People use citric acid as a safety pickle substitute, but it is not as good as safety pickle. Just put that out there. What was the question, Louise?
If you're sniffing fumes, that's probably not a good thing.
Well, no, it's not a good thing. No, absolutely. Well, how to hold your mandrel. Yep.
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Tang and ring mandrels, yeah.
Okay, you can buy a device that goes onto your bench that enables you to put the handle of your mandrel into it to hold it. If you want to, you can, oh, look at that. What's that? Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Ooh, interesting. Must be having problems with that.
She's buffering.
Must be having problems with.
Oh no, Horatio, I don't think it was you. I think it's.
It's our end by the looks of it. We're getting a little error saying it's not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth stream. Not much point opening widget. You won't be able to do anything. Just have to wait for the buffering to stop.
Oh dear.
So we'll pause. You do a dance. I've got an order from a stranger. I've got an order from a stranger. Ooh, order from a stranger. Is it gone yet? Open the widget, Louise. See what's happened.
Oh. Error. Just says that. Doesn't tell me anything
Poor.
else.
We shall have to see. All right, I'll carry on and hopefully you'll catch up. Oh, we are buffering. Wonder why that is. Don't know. Apologies, not quite sure what's going on. The stream status says it's poor and we do apologise for that. But we will carry on. You can get a vice, bigger vice than that, and fasten the handle into the vice to tap on. With this bench that I've got here, I've got a couple of holes underneath the piece of wood here that the end of the mandrel can go in. Perhaps I can get this camera around here to show you what I mean. Let's have a look, see if we can get this down to show you. There we go. There we go. How's that? So this is the bench that we got by here, as you can see. And by here, we've got a hole there and a hole there. This hole is bigger, but not big enough to put that in, unfortunately. But we can put the end in here. And by doing that, then we can hold onto the mandrel. Make it a bit bigger. There we go. We can hold onto the mandrel here, put the ring on and tap the ring nice and safe. Or you could even put it on the side of your bench by there and start to hammer. But you will dent the bench. So don't do it on the outside of the bench. Do apologise for the poor streaming. Don't know what's happening. Do apologise for that.
I haven't kicked something again.
No, it wouldn't be going through if you had.
No.
No. Okay, there we go. Let's move that back into position there. Or you can put it into a big vice if you want to do. If you had a big vice, a little vice like this. I suppose you could put it into there like that there, and hammer on it. That's pretty good. That's pretty stable. You could do it that way. Just grab yourself a little vice, a little Durston vice, 15 quid, something like that. All right then, may we have our next question, please, Louise?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Kristen is asking, what texture should rouge and tripoli be? The ones I have are super hard and very difficult to pick up on a tool. I bought NK brand made in the USA.
Haven't heard of NK. It is hard. The tripoli that we've got here, it is really hard. You can rub your finger on it, doesn't really come off on your finger. But what you got to do is that the tools do have to be moving when you put it onto the tripoli or the pre-polish, for argument's sake. So you need to start to spin it and then put it on. And usually the heat will actually start to melt the polish. This is an old brush. You would do exactly the same thing if you had a felt mop. Run that, put it on it, you can see little bits start to come off it. Oh, the off stream's excellent again now. There we go, it's strange. So that's what I would do with that. What else we got here? We've got a lovely soft woolen mop. This is a piece of rouge, and exactly the same way you spin it and then you put that up onto it. The mop, as you can see here, has got a little bit of rouge on it now, and that's all you really need. The polish does have to be hard. If it's too soft, it simply just goes flying everywhere. But something like that should be enough, and it is hard. Sometimes if you've had it for years and years and years, it may dry out, but you should be okay. And if you do have a problem with NK, just go and buy yourself some Menzerner or some Lux, something like that, or just some simple bog standard tripoli and rouge, a bar of each, and they will last you for years and years and years. I have access to Dilux red, white, green, Lux pink, orange. Which should I buy? To be honest, I don't know exactly. I have a list somewhere that takes you through all the particular colours and what they are applicable for. Search on the internet, have a look. All you really need is a pre-polish and a high polish. That's all you need. You don't need blah, 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 blah. You don't need 5 or 6 different polishes. Just basically a pre-polish, something that is going to be applicable for the material that you've got. So don't have a wax. Don't have a plastic polish if you're going to be trying to be using it on precious metals. Get a precious metals pre-polish and then a precious metals high polish or a rouge polish, and you should be fine with that. Alternative to tripoli, what is it, grit? It isn't, there is no grit about it. It is simply called tripoli. As I said, just search for Lux. It was Lux you were looking at, wasn't it? And then just have a look at the chart and find out what's applicable for precious metals and find the appropriate polish for that. Oh, Louise, you've been zoomed in. You're a bit close there, my dear.
Oh dear, what's happened?
There you go, much better. I didn't mean that nastily, as in much better.
Charming.
For you. Ooh. Okay, next question, please.
I can do it all next week. That's your attitude.
I'll zoom right in on you. You're gorgeous. Just have to zoom right in. No, okay. Maybe have a next question, please, Louise.
Thank you. Okay. Any tips for bending domed soft wire? I'm using 2.5 by 1.5 mil to make a bail, and it needs some strength to move and bend, but loves to dent. Working with the piece that's 18 mil, so perhaps length. Yeah.
If you've only got a short length, it is really hard. The one tool that you could buy are these. Some people call them bow closing. Let me just try and make that a bit bigger. I'm trying to squeeze everything into the frame there. There we go. Some people call these bow closing. This is a bit of Delrin down here, and this is almost like a half round jaw. You could put something in here like that and give that a squeeze, and it will get a nice bend. And because this is Delrin, it's like a plastic, it's not going to dent. You can use the same type of thing with this. Oh, good grief. That was a bit close, wasn't there? You could use this, which is a shank bender. So you would pull the handle here. Let me zoom in a little bit closer on that one for you to see. There we go. You can pull, you move the handle here, and what happens is that you have your bit of metal here, and because again, this is Delrin, and you can get these in steel dies, that will get you a nice bend. These do tend to be a little bit on the pricey side, but these little pliers here, you can pick them up really quite, not say cheaply, but quite inexpensive. Let me just go onto the overhead, perhaps you can have a better view. So that's what they look like, simple pliers, but the ends look like this. Bit of Delrin, bit of plastic, and a corresponding jaw on that side. And that should bend your domed or your D-section wire quite nicely. At least it'll get the bend going, and then you can then use other implements and tools then to bend it all the way around if need be. But there is the best way of bending the wire. Or don't have a short length, have a longer length so you can hold on to it, so then you get the leverage to bend it around and then cut it to the correct length you want afterwards. Next question, please.
Okay, Marcia would like to make a tapered piece of silver wire. Filing is a big waste. Would it be better to gradually reduce via draw plate or rolling mill?
Rolling mill would be a good way of doing it. It's a bit difficult with a draw plate because you've got to pull it through and then pull it back, and you've got to pull it through and then pull it back. So that's a little bit more awkward. You're better off getting a rolling mill or using your rolling mill and what's called step rolling. So for argument's sake, you've got your piece of square wire that looks like that. You put it through the V grooves and you'd roll it down to roughly around about here. Okay, so that's sort of come into here, so you get slightly smaller section. Yeah, if that makes sense. So then you make a bit of a smaller section like that. I would love to have bought one of Tony Hart's prints. It would have been awesome, that would have been, wouldn't it? Okay, so then you step roll a section that's like that. Okay, so that means you put the metal in perhaps an inch, wind it back out, turn it around 90 degrees, put it in about an inch, bring it back out. Then you would step roll it in again about, you get the general gist of what we're talking about, yeah? And that would come in again. And over time, you're gonna get a tapered, so the side view would look like that, where you sort of step rolled each time. At least then you don't have to go filing it. All you got to do then is just file off those high spots like that, and then you've got your tapered wire, as opposed to having a big rectangular and then you having to file all that off. So step rolling would be an ideal way of doing it. Don't forget to anneal it once you've step rolled it, then it should be easier to bend and easier to file and so forth. But yeah, step rolling, very good idea.
Can you hammer the taper?
I was going to say, yes, you can hammer it as well.
That's not my question. I didn't ask an intelligent question. It was Bob's question.
You can do exactly the same thing. Steel block, hammer, and hammer it. Don't forget, keep annealing it, because the metal is going to work harden. But if you do it, if you hammer it, you can keep turning, so you can get quite a nice taper purely from hammering. Whereas if you step roll, it's gone now. If you step roll it, it'll still be square, so you still have to take off the corners as well. But yeah, good question, good answer. Next question, please, Louise.
Okay, Yvonne received my first borax cone and dish. The cone itself is really dry and crumbly. The outcome of swirling around the dish results in large crumbs even when doing so in a small bit of water.
Now, I read something on, not quite sure whether it's true, or one of the forums, was that there was literally one manufacturer when it came to borax cones, because everyone's asking you, what brand cone is it, what brand cone is it? I had one, I had a look, and it didn't say what brand. But I read that the guy who made them died. He took the recipe, there's a recipe, and with him, so all the borax cones that are available now are not quite the same as what they were from many, many years ago. That is why it keeps on crumbling. I haven't found that as a particular problem, because even when you get little bits that happen to sort of like congregate in your dish like this here, you can still add some water to those bits and you can still grind them down. And as you can see, you just grind it down into a paste. And to be honest, once you've got a lot of borax in the dish that we've got like this here, it's gonna be hardly wearing the cone down at all, because all you got to do is keep it adding a little bit of water to that, and all you're doing is just breaking up what is left in the dish here, as opposed to having to grind and grind and grind and grind, because all you want to do is just get rid of all this excess from around here. So all you're doing is just grinding away what you've already ground to make some borax, and that's the reason why you don't really then end up having to sort of replace the cone that often, because it's all still in your dish. So I think that is the reason why people are having some problems, because the guy died. Whether this is true, I don't know. Don't quote me, but I did read it on one of the Facebook forums, Facebook groups. It's almost like the water of air stone that you used to get, and I was from Scotland, and there's only one supplier of water of air stone, and when they finished, you can't get any.
Wow.
It's like a slate. You mix it in water. Anyway, beside the point. Next question, please, Louise.
Okay, Solomon is saying, I've just started lost wax casting and have had very small bubbles forming in the metal, but I'm not sure why. Any advice? Okay,
so that sounds like you've got bubbles in your casting, bubbles in your investment. Excuse me. Do you have a vacuum chamber? So once you've mixed up your investment in the bowl, then you put that into your vacuum chamber to get rid of all the bubbles that's in that that solution. Don't forget, you've got about 9 minutes from the moment you start to mix it to the moment it should be in the flask already. So you've got to work fairly quick. So as soon as you put the water in, or put the powder in on the water, mix it. Your 9 minutes starts then. If you whisk it, you're going to get air in the investment. So that's the reason why you put it in a vacuum chamber. You'll never ever get every single air bubble out of it. If you keep it in there for about a minute, minute and a half perhaps, you're going to get the majority of every single bit of air that's in the investment out, although it'll still be bubbling slightly. Then once you release the pressure, take the chamber off.
The metal.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
Okay,
I'll come to that.
Okay,
I'll come
sorry.
to that. Yeah. So then you pour it into your flask. You've introduced air, so you do exactly the same thing. You put it in the vacuum chamber, bell goes on the top, then you vacuum it out. So then you should get virtually all the air out. You should always make sure that you put some tape on the outside of your flask, because when it comes up, it bubbles. It's almost like it's boiling. It could spill over. So put some tape over it. Okay. Now, as you quite rightly said, it's the metal, Andrew, not the investment.
I thought I said it wrong. It's okay.
No, it's fine. So what happens now is that if you've got air, and also when you have your model that you're putting the investment on, you can get some solution that you dip the model into, and that breaks down the surface tension of the model. Yes, Louise.
Sorry, Solomon is saying, I have a vacuum chamber and I had it in there for about 3 minutes.
Okay.
The bubbles are really tiny, but a lot of them.
Okay, so it sounds like the surface of the model has some surface tension about it. You can buy some solution that you dip the model into, so then when the investment is poured onto the model, it just spreads and goes all over it. Sometimes if you've got, I'm not quite sure, whatever material it is, and you pour the investment onto the model, sometimes some small little air pockets will be trapped. More so if you've got underhangs. So if you've got, so this is your rubber flask here, and this is your sprue, and this is your model. Okay, your model's like this. Okay, and it comes down like this. So I'm not quite sure what the hell this is. This is this is.
Oh, you said another one.
It's not as bad as my dog. Okay, so what's going to happen is you pour the investment into the model. Okay, these areas under here are going to trap some air, even though the investment comes down over the top. If those are little pockets, like a little concave section, you're not going to get the air out. So you should always try and think about not having a model with underhangs or anything like that. Always have them slightly up, so when it goes into the vacuum chamber, the model and the bubbles can then be pulled up and out. If there's anything trapped underneath and it's trying to suck the air out, the bubbles underneath here are never going to come out because they're trapped. If they're on the side, the bubbles can come out. So that is one thing to do with the models. Perhaps you should have your tree or your master not flat, but you always have it at an angle this way. So you're thinking about all the air would be taken up when you come to vacuum it. The solution is very, very good that you can paint onto the piece or you can dip it in. Another little trick is to get a paintbrush, and whilst your investment is perhaps in the vacuum chamber, get a little bit of investment that's in your mixing bowl and start to just gently paint it on certain areas of the master to be sure that you're going to get a nice even coating of plaster investment on it. Because then when the investment goes on top, then it's already half coated, so to speak, and then you shouldn't get any air bubbles in it. So that's what it sounds like. If you've got some very small bubbles, it sounds like your vacuum chamber is not sucking enough out. I'll run into the room and find out what bar or whatever pressure it sucks out at. But if it isn't gaining, if the needle isn't going all the way and sucking, you're going to be left with some air bubbles in it. But there's several ways that you can counteract that. No concave bits, have it at its side, or just paint it with a little bit of investment first, or dip it in that like a surface tension breaker when it comes to dipping the master in, and those should be good to go. Louise, maybe have a next question, please.
I'm just going to jump back to the borax.
Yeah.
Because he's not dead.
Isn't he?
No, so stop saying he is.
Well, I read it.
He's just retired and celebrated his 87th birthday, Neander has just said.
Oh, there we go.
He tried to pass on the recipe and the system to no avail.
Couldn't pass it on? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I was half right.
Yeah, well, no, you were completely wrong.
How was I wrong?
Because you said he was dead and he's not.
Okay, well, he's not dead, but he's finished, isn't he? So yes, he's not. Okay.
Not the same. Goodness sake. Right, while we're still on borax, sorry, Yvonne said the crumbs are larger than those of a baguette. So they're big crumbs of borax.
Just try and question. Get something like a pestle and mortar. Dry it in the sun perhaps, get a pestle and mortar, or put it all within a bag and hit it with a rolling mill just to try and scrunch it and bang it down. That'd be the best way, or no pestle and mortar and grind it. Yeah.
Okay, and also Sandy says the borax looks dirty. Does it matter?
There's my borax. You can see the colour of this. The ends by here is going to get a little bit on the dirty. If it does become black, well then wash it out, put it in some warm water, and just to get rid of all that. And you can use that then if you're melting some gold or some silver down, you can always use that into the melt to get that nice and clean. And then just give your cone a little bit of a wash and make sure that's nice and clean. But as you can see, mine is not the cleanest, but it works. Yeah. Next question.
You were going to go and do something. You were going to get something.
I am.
Yeah.
Talk to your friends.
Okay. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean that that being retired is as good as dead.
30.
Hit with a rolling.
I think centimetres.
Yeah,
the
that'll do
vacuum.
it.
76. It's a 30-inch
H.
Yeah,
Borax,
70.
Yeah.
I think it's like 30 inches HG, whatever that means. Yeah, so make sure that it's nice and sucking full. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean no. You know. Okay.
He didn't mean.
No, next question.
So don't start writing. Okay. Oh, Horatia's having the same problem with her rolling mill.
Which one? Oh, as in it's twisting.
As in twisting. And it's new, brand new.
Manufacturer?
Yeah, perhaps get back in touch with the manufacturer and
okay.
yeah, because that should not be happening.
No, if it's tell us who makes it, where you got it from. Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
Okay.
Thank you, Jackie. HG is mercury. Okay, so it's inch per mercury, 30 inch or 76 centimeters. HG mercury, whatever that means. I don't know. That's what it says. Anyway, next question.
Sandra is asking, how often do you replace your soldering blocks? Do they degrade over time with all the heat? When do you use the different types, i.e. the thinner tiles, white brick, charcoal, honeycomb?
Okay, so I have had this chap here for a long time. All right, you can see the state of it. Majority of that on there is old borax. So I wouldn't consider using this. So about 12 mil, half inch. I wouldn't really put anything on here now because when you heat this block up, the borax will melt. It will melt. And then when it cools down, whatever's on here gets stuck to the block. So I wouldn't really use this anymore. So what I would do is go outside, nice paving slab, get this, put that down and rub it on the paving slab. And once you've done that, it ends up pretty much like this. Okay, I could have done this a little bit more, as you can see, but it's worn down, it's taken off all the old borax and it's left me a reasonably smooth surface. So you can carry on reusing it. I use this because it's slightly bigger than the block that I've got. So I find it, if anything rolls off the block, it rolls onto this. If I have that on the bench on its own, it's a little bit dangerous because anything can roll off here onto the wooden bench and it would burn. So I would always have something else underneath it, especially if I'm working on the wooden bench like this. If you've got a little separate area where you are soldering, well, that's going to be fine. When would I use a block? When would I use a board? It's entirely up to you. I do it in this way here, where I am up in the workshop here. Downstairs in the other workshops downstairs, we've simply got these blocks. Do they wear out? Not really. They just become disgustingly dirty with borax and dirt. But as I said, you can do the same with these blocks. I think I did it on that one there. On a wall, concrete wall, smooth wall, my neighbour's wall, it's ideal. He does often wonder why there's bits of cuttlefish everywhere or some of this block on the floor and on the wall. But that is ideal, and it will just get rid of all the crud that becomes like this side here, as you can see.
Sorry to interrupt, can you sand the block off?
You can sand it, but it's too, I think that's too fine, produces a lot of dust. So I would do it outside with a protector on, then you can do it, then you can brush the dust away. If you try and do that inside, it's going to be dangerous. Not dangerous.
That's just something else you don't want to breathe in, isn't
exactly.
It, really?
Emery paper it you can do, but if you have it on you need a big bit of emery paper to clean that.
Amco's just said about your video. After all these years, it's time to retire. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah, that was a bit of clickbait, wasn't it?
Yeah.
After all these years, I did a sad little. After all these years, it's about time I retired. I came, no, I'm not retiring, I'm retiring my blocks and so forth. So yeah, so that's the idea. You can keep going and going and going until they become so thin. When it comes to a charcoal block, like this one here, you can do the same with this. What you will find is that the charcoal blocks do wear. They do, when you carry on heating them, they start to deteriorate and they become, as you can see, on this one here, you can see how this is slowly wearing out. On this side here, you can see where the flame is concentrated, it does burn away the charcoal. You can do exactly the same thing with this. Go outside, this is charcoal dust there, and do exactly the same with this and to smooth it down. The advantage with the charcoal blocks is that you can gouge grooves into it, you can make little semicircular dents so your balls don't have flat bottoms. Thank you, Louise. Yeah, so that's the basically. Yeah, so there's the YouTube video. It's about time I retired. Soldering block video. Did you find the happy dance?
Oh, I forgot. No, that's going to be on my phone, isn't it? So I'm going to have to try and,
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
maybe have a next question, please, Louise.
Yes. Rolling Millers of Durston, a year old. Yeah. Kenneth,
Contact with Durston.
With Durston, or I've put my email address in the chat. You can, because we're in contact with Durston, so we can, we'll have a chat about that and sort that out. A bench peg, and also should I buy a clamp? I think I've missed the first half of your question there. A bench peg. How useful is a bench peg, and should I buy one?
Bench peg, you cannot operate without a bench peg. This is, no, you see, here I go. Am I getting frothy yet? Nearly. So, I always say that when I sit here, there are two things. Sometimes I say I'm the pilot of a plane, okay? So you can imagine when you're in a plane, a pilot has all the controls around him, yeah? In front of him, he has like the throttle and the ups and downs and the whatever he's got. They're right by here, aren't they? They're right in front of him. But the other things that he requires are up by here or up by there or over here. So stuff he uses all the time is here, right in front. And you should be exactly the same as a pilot when you're sat at your bench. Everything that you do is here, okay? So everything that you need is exactly in this area here. So, for instance, my little down by here, I've got my tweezers, my trays by here, my peg is by here, my soldering's by here, my pliers are normally a little bit nearer like this so I can work on them, put them back. So everything is near. Everything that I don't need within 5 or 10 minutes of me working, they're a little bit further away. Perhaps they're not in the top drawer by here, but they're down in my bottom drawers down here. Stuff that I don't use all the time are actually perhaps over there on the shelf there. So this is the center. So you need a bench peg. A bench peg, here we go. Starting to get frothy again.
Here we go.
when I used to teach in the old days, and we had students here, I used to be very passionate, as you know, I'm pretty passionate, and sometimes I would see them doing this, right? Oh my God!
You used to slap it on your head.
I used to say, stop doing your nails. They were women who I used to do, yeah. Obviously, if it was a bloke, I perhaps I wouldn't say, anyway. So they'd be doing this. I'm thinking, no, that's not right. You should be putting some more effort. This is nothing, is it? This is great for your nails, but if you're trying to remove file marks, oh my God, you're going to be here forever. So what do you do? Boom. Wrong. Can I get the camera on this? No, I can't. Okay. So what you would do, you put it on your bench peg. Right, come on. Move this round. Oh God, this camera's a bit stiff. So what you would do is do this. You would put it on your bench peg, and with this you can push. Right? You push it. They laugh. You know. Here we go. So it's this. You push. You can really put some effort in. Like this, you can't push because you're pulling back with this hand and pushing back with that hand. So that's rubbish. Get a peg, right? You need to get a peg. Whether it's the not Durston, what are they? Yeah, whether it's the Durston one, like this. Okay. You can get the clamps like this one here that goes onto the side of your bench. Let me try and do this if I can get bigger. There we go. You can get these. Okay, the clamp bench peg goes in there. All right, then it clamps onto your bench. You've got a peg. You would cut the little V groove into this like that. Okay, so yeah, something like that. Or you would get a little dovetail plate. Let's bring this camera around so we can see. Let's bring that down there. There, up, Andrew. Come on, Andrew. I need a cameraman, don't I, really? Here we go. This is a dovetail plate that fastens on the side of your workbench. And then you would get your bench peg with the dovetail attachment that fastens onto it. And the best thing about that is that you can get all the GRS equipment and so forth that would do that. Didn't want to invest in, oh my gosh, where is it? Have I got them here? It must be in the other room. You can get the New Concepts bench clamps that clamp on, that have the little dovetail plate on them again. So do you need a bench peg? Absolutely. It's the first thing you would do. You would buy a saw, you would buy a bench peg. Clamp one like this, better than nothing. Definitely go and do it. I don't know how you can make jewellery without one. Next question, please, Louise.
So just to be clear...
Just to be clear, yeah.
You need a bench peg.
You do.
Can't emphasise that enough.
Oh, okay. Can I just say something? You know what I'm like? I found another saw. I haven't really shown this saw an awful lot. But I do have to make an exception.
Do not swing it around like that. It's from my head.
I do have to make an exception, okay? You know, again, how passionate I am about saws, okay? Oops, daisy. And how you need one that is not adjustable, okay?
Oh, God.
I have you know that there is only one occasion when I would have an adjustable one, when it is one like this that has quite a deep throat. And I've only used this about twice, I think. And that is the only occasion when I would actually use this saw that is adjustable. Okay. Anyway, let's not get onto that. Maybe have the next question, please, Louise.
Yeah, I think we better move on fast.
Fast.
Patrick is asking, can you let me know what stones don't change colour in a kiln?
Don't know. I wouldn't put any stone in the kiln. I wouldn't want to risk it. You can. The problem is you don't know what stones are going to be treated, what stones have had anything done to them. Perhaps they've been made that colour through the introduction of heat or radiation. You don't know whether there's been any fracture filling, some oil filled. So I would not. Oh, here we go again.
Yeah,
YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain.
We've got 2 minutes left anyway.
Okay. So I would not. The only stone that I would put in a kiln would be a diamond, and make sure it's a good diamond, not a bad inferior diamond. And also I would get actual cubic zirconias, CZs that you can put in metal clay, and those are able to withstand heat. And those are the only stones that I would put in a kiln. So Susan HP says, yeah, no rocks in the kiln. Not at all. It's too risky. You can put diamonds, yes, heated and natural. Specially made stones that can withstand heat, but nothing else. Wouldn't chance it, wouldn't risk it. Next question, please, Louise.
Okay.
I do apologise for the buffering.
Yeah. Can we just say get well soon to Natalia, please?
Oh.
And it's your birthday, so you have to get well, darling, because it's your birthday this week.
Get well soon.
Yeah.
Happy birthday for this week. Let's move you into this way a bit. There we go. But next question though, please, Louise.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Julian says, parcel went out to you today, Julian. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Fab. Caris, I've missed anybody, have I? No. Oh, sorry. Is it okay to tumble a ring or pendant with stone set?
Again, I really wouldn't risk it because of the tumbling, the bashing action of the shot. Wouldn't risk it. You can risk it with things like diamonds. When you come down to things like corundums, like rubies and sapphires, in theory you could get away with it, but I wouldn't risk it. Not at all. Always polish by hand. It's far safer than using a barrel, and you get a far superior, better finish. Next question.
Why are we buffering?
Don't know.
Okay. Right. Caris is saying I made my first bezel setting for a 6mm cabochon with a 0.6
Thick bezel?
mil strip and a 1mm back. I found it really hard to push the bezel to the stone. Should I have annealed it before setting the cabochon?
Not necessarily, because when you solder the bezel upon the back plate, you're effectively annealing it. I do apologise about the buffering. I'm not quite sure why.
You've broken the internet with your froth.
You shouldn't necessarily need to anneal it again, because through the process of soldering the bezel up onto the back plate, you've annealed it. What you can do is grab yourself a little bit of steel. Or nail. Nail would be ideal. Go into your ironmongers, go and get a nail, any sort of nail. Something like this, okay? Normal, little bit of a nail, cut off the head, cut off the sharpy pointy bit, okay? Make sure that it's nice and flat. I would just file a slight, ooh, looks a bit freaky, doesn't it? So you get your nail, yeah, you get your nail, it's like this is your nail. That's a bit rubbish actually, Andrew. You get your nail, and you don't necessarily have a straight flat tip on the end. You will just gently round it so it's slightly domed. You would just emery paper it, don't polish the tip. All right, so this is my nail here. Let's try and get onto this camera instead. There we go, it's too far away now. Sorry about this, I'm making you a bit ill. So here's the nail. I would not necessarily cut it directly straight. If you do cut it straight, file it so you get a nice rounded end. Don't have a sharp edge. Then I would just simply get a buff stick and just go over to get rid of the deep file marks. You don't want to polish the end here. The reason being is that now you can come along with a small little hammer like this. You would put that in a clamp or put it in a vise, and then come along and then just tap the bezel down. If you have problems burnishing it by hand, a little bit of action with a hammer just to tap that bezel down is going to be absolutely fantastic. If you can afford it and you've got a nice flex shaft, then you can get yourself some hammer hand pieces like this here that would go in a flex shaft, and this does the same thing. This is a reciprocating handpiece, so it'll come out and tap, 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 and that would help you tap the bezel over. But something like a nail like this, if you did polish it and polish the face, it's likely to slip, but by giving the face that little bit of a key, that little bit of roughness, you should be able to tap that over onto the stone quite nicely. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much for the donation. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's all absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. You're a gem. You're a star. Thank you, Steve, for that. Next question then, please, Louise.
Okay. I'm not sure I have another one actually. I think we're still on a poor stream status for some reason. I'm not sure why this has happened.
I turned the computer off downstairs, so it's not the computers downstairs or anything that's taking the... So I don't know.
The what? The bandwidth?
Yeah, the bandwidth.
What are your thoughts on metal clay and the general quality of the material and the final product? We were talking about this earlier.
We were talking about this earlier, yeah. Can I just say, I have got... this is a good opportunity to say this now. I have got some magazines, haven't I? From 8 years ago, to do with metal clay. They were produced by Helen.
All metal clay then?
Pardon?
Are they all metal clay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. This is, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly run downstairs to pick them up, just to very, very quickly show you. I've got about 20 odd, and there's like 5 or 6 of each individual issue. About 8-10 years ago, Helen, who ran the distributorship for PMC in the UK, she produced a magazine, bi-monthly magazine called Fine Silver. So I've got magazines. If you want to buy them from me, you can have them for whatever it costs for the postage, okay? But we'll come to that in a little minute. What do I think of metal clay? Ooh. What can I say?
I always think of your analogy with the chocolate bars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you always say the...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, God, yeah. So the clay has some silver in it. It also has some organic binder in it to make it that clay. When you fire it, it burns off that organic matter. So what, as Louise just said, my analogy with it is, it's okay. I wouldn't use it personally myself. If you are getting into jewelry making and you want to start in one direction, you can go down the metal clay route. Although I don't personally would do it myself. I'm just catching up on here. We're just back on the punch at the moment on there. So we are a little bit behind on there. So I do apologize. The problem is when you fire your metal clay, you burn off all the organic matter. So it's like, and this is what I use the analogy like a Yorkie bar and an arrow. Both are great, aren't they? They both look the same. Why would you have a Yorkie bar as opposed to an arrow?
Oh, isn't it?
It's thicker.
Yeah.
It's more chunky.
More chocolate.
More chocolate. And that's exactly the way I look at precious metal clay or metal clay, whichever you want to look at. Because it is porous. Once the organic matter has burnt off, it's like an aero bar. There's loads of holes in it, whereas real silver is like a Yorkie bar. So that's...
Depends what you're doing though, doesn't it? Because there are so many applications for PMC that you couldn't do the techniques that you use. So
yeah, exactly. Because you could get a 2-part silicone mold, push it into a shell, push it into a badge. When that cures in 20 minutes, then you get your PMC, your metal clay, push that into the mold, take it off. You've got an exact replica of what you've just done. It is a very, very good, amazing tool, piece of equipment, material. But it's not for me. It is for out there. People have made businesses and they do the thumbprints, they do the writing on it. It is good, but each to their own. I've had a go and I tried to work with it, but I look at it in the wrong way. I look at it as a metal and it's not, it's a clay. So I had problems and I wanted to make it thin, I wanted to make it straight, and you can't do that because it's clay. Shirley, thank you very much for the donation. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I think we're still on the hammer hand pieces actually on there at the moment. So I do apologise for the streaming. So what do I think of it? It's great. It's not for everybody. If you want to get into producing these replicas of shells, replicas of buttons, of textures and that sort of thing, it's absolutely brilliant for that. And you can do that, as Louise just said, it's easier to do that using metal clay than it is to do, say, lost wax casting. Absolutely. The finished pieces, I personally don't think are to the same standard of metal that if you were using sheet, using wire, than if you were using clay. But again, you can get some fantastic organic shapes, organic matters. You can get extruders and have all these weird and wonderful things that would be virtually impossible to make at a reasonable price with metal. But it's brilliant using metal clay. So yeah, each to their own with that. Absolutely.
Okay, we've gone over a bit.
I think we have. I think we have.
I want to go home to look at my book.
You've got a new book. What's your new book then,
My
Louise?
new book. Well, I have ordered, and it's come today. I've heard lots of good things about it.
Beautiful Is that all about me?
Oh yes, it's a book about Andrew